Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So I'd like to quickly clear something up. We now have access to these two different bells that buff companions' damage. Well, this is mainly going to be focused on those damage dealing companions, as this would be where you would run these bells. I guess there's not really much use running them on any other companion like a healer one or a buffer one. With that said, these bells are going to give you that additional boost in damage for your companion. This one would directly contribute to dealing damage, and this one would contribute to the recharge speed, allowing the companion to cast more of its abilities per se, meaning it could hit more often and thus potentially deal more damage. However, I'd like to make a little test as to whether which one is actually the best to use. Usually you would run in your belt item slots here your healing potions, so either a stone of health or healing potions. I don't really recommend not using them, as they're definitely a big aid for survivabilities. The next slot you ideally want something like the Dormant Forger's Box. It gives you that additional damage and giving 3% additional power, that when you get it upgraded to the Awakened Forger's Box, and then one of those random buffs, and all of those are going to contribute to dealing more damage. So you can't really miss out on that, since 3% power is the equivalent of about 2% more damage, and 2% more damage for yourself is definitely going to be a lot more damage compared to your companion. And from my testing, there's no question that the Forger's Box is definitely better than running either of these bells. Even if you were to choose to run both of them, you would not want to sacrifice your Forger's Box. So what you would run is just one of these bells, as you can see right here. Well, you would run one of these bells, or you would run something like the Alliance Battle Horn, but that's another discussion. If you wanted to run one of these bells, which one would you use to maximize your companion's damage? First of all, I'd like to give a massive thank you to all of these channel members for helping me keep my channel going. I've tested it out on the Cold Iron Warrior, who at the current state of the game deals the most damage. And yes, this is testing on the previous server, so we have module 21 here, so any changes that would have been made have pretty much been made. It's only 2 weeks away from module 21 launching, so we got our Cold Iron Warrior and we went and tested out first just to see what kind of damage he would deal with my stats. And we went and got our results to be as follows. This is the Cold Iron Warrior with its base damage without using either of the bells. And we got there 34,000 encounter DPS, dealing 24.5 million damage. And this was over the duration of 12 minutes. So we then went to use this Bell of Celerity, giving us that recharge speed. Now we go and have a look at the result of that, and we can see in fact it actually dealt less damage than the base. You can see it only dealt over 24 million damage at 33.4 thousand encounter DPS. This is less than the base damage, as we can see there, which is unfortunate. And the actual reason being is you can see the difference between the Spinning Steel, which is its most damage. It dealt 140 hits there, and with this one here it was 132, and that's due to the timing of when you start the recording of the fight and the damage. But even so, this bell doesn't seem to reduce the recharge speed of its Spinning Steel. It didn't seem to reduce the cooldown whatsoever. We look at the base was 140 hits, and that was in 12 minutes, and the one with the recharge bell was 132. Now, with regards to the timing, even so, with ringing the bell over 6 times, you would think you would see an increase in the amount of hits of its Spinning Steel. However, we did see an increase of hits with its Iron Strike. You can see it's 557 compared to 527. So there's 30 more hits due to the recharge bell, meaning it does have an impact, but only to his base hit, his at will as you would call it. As for his encounter power, it seems to have no effect with his Spinning Steel. He's not going to hit any more often. So we went and tested this out then with the Empowered Bell. And here we can see some improvement. This is just over a 5% extra damage boost compared to the base here of 34,000 encounter DPS to now being 35,800 encounter DPS. The total damage going up there to 25.8 million damage. And this again over the duration of 12 minutes. And we can see the amount of hits was pretty much similar to the base, as we're not changing the recharge whatsoever. So this leads us to conclude that yes, indeed, if you want to run one of these bells, you're absolutely worth running the Bell of Empowerment and not the Celerity one. The Celerity one gives recharge speed, and it does not seem to affect whatsoever those big hits on your companions, like your Spinning Steel on your Cold Iron Warrior, which is the majority of its damage. You can see it's nearly 70% of the Cold Iron Warrior's base damage is that Spinning Steel, and if we're not getting recharge speed on that, then we're really not gaining any more damage. It's much better to just increase the base damage of your Spinning Steel as well as your default attacks for your companion. Now, in my opinion, and at least what I'm guessing, is this is also going to play into effect with, let's say, Xuna. It's not going to reduce the timer of which she casts her actual bloodbath, and it's going to be the same with your Black Eyes Prospector, your Air Archon, and all of those as well. But I will go test them out and just make sure on that. But as of right now, the Cold Iron Warrior is the top damaging single target companion, so it was worth it to test out on him and to compare these two bells. So that concludes that. Definitely don't bother with the Bell of Celerity. Make sure to run a Bell of Empowerment instead. So hopefully this was at least insightful to you guys and somewhat helpful. And if it was, consider leaving the video a like. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing. And we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.